My name is Misty, and I gave up my dream when I dumped the richest guy in my state. You see, growing up, I was dirt poor. When I turned 10, my mom got diagnosed with a disease that meant she couldn't work. She was tired all the time, and she passed out if she got up too fast, so she spent most days watching TV on the couch. And that meant our fridge was always empty. I started mowing lawns and running errands for neighbors to make money, and though it was barely anything, it was just enough to get by. By the time I entered high school, I was working 2 part-time jobs. I didn't have a minute to myself, but I knew I needed to work to support my mom and my little sister Rose. Because I spent all my time working, I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have time to really see anyone. I got up at 5 a.m., did a paper route, went to school at 8, got off school at 3, then worked at a coffee shop until 8 p.m. When was I supposed to hang out with people? I thought I didn't need anyone. And then I met Riley. Riley started coming to my coffee shop every single night. He always put money in the tip jar. I thought he was adorable, and according to my coworkers, he thought I was too. He was 17, just like me. I caught him staring at me sometimes, so I started feeling a little brave. I wrote my number on his coffee and gave it to him. That night, he texted me, and the rest was history. Every day at work, he would sit and talk to me, then text me to make sure I made it home safe. For once, I was starting to feel like a real teenager. Within a few weeks, I was sitting in my junky car with him after work, making out with him. One time, the cops even got called on us by some passerby. We started dating exclusively. He didn't go to my school, but I was all right with that. It just meant I had to make the most of the time we had together. At first, everything was great. But then, I started to notice things I didn't love about him. Whenever I had to work on a weekend, he moaned about it. He constantly tried to talk me into calling sick, and when I explained that I needed the money, he rolled his eyes. It's like he didn't understand that my life depended on me making money. When we laid in my car and talked about the future together, I'd tell him my dream about being a vet, and he never had anything to say. He didn't have any dreams. He told me he didn't know if he ever wanted to work, and I didn't understand how that could be. Honestly, I was disappointed that he didn't have any drive. What did he want to do with his life? Why wasn't he opening up? Didn't he want a future with me? Our problems started getting worse and worse. He complained that I was no fun when I left him to go to work. On days where I was working my butt off, I knew he was sitting in his house, playing video games and eating food he didn't do anything to earn. On top of all that, he never let me come to his house. When we hung out, it was almost always in my car or at restaurants. It reached a point where I looked at him and honestly, I saw a loser. Things got worse when my mom started needing expensive medication. I had to pick up even more shifts and I barely got to see Riley. He wasn't understanding at all. So on the Friday before school started for the new year, I dumped him. I told him I didn't think we were compatible and that I didn't have time to worry about him being happy. I didn't think much of our breakup. That is, until I got to school on Monday. Some new kid pulled up in a bright red car that was stupid expensive. All the girls and guys were swooning around him. I couldn't help but imagine what my life would be like if I had money like that. What kind of kid has parents rich enough to get him that car? When the door opened, I got my answer. Riley. He winked at me as he got out of the car. While I was sporting giant dark circles and the same sweatshirt I had worn 5 days in a row, Riley was wearing gold chains and brand name clothes. What the heck? Where did the money come from? I didn't have to wonder for long. Riley came up to me at my locker and asked me if I missed him yet. I rolled my eyes and asked him if he robbed a bank. He told me that his family had always had money. But over the weekend, his dad's business had gotten bought out by a huge company, so he was a billionaire. I was grinding my teeth. I worked my butt off every day, yet he was the one with money? I slammed my locker and tried to walk away. Riley cornered me and told me I was lucky because he would gladly take me back and help me out. The idea made me sick to my stomach. But as I walked away and the weight of all my days working wore down on me, it started to seem like a good idea. At work that night, I stood there while a customer yelled at me. When I went to the back room, I had a text from my mom telling me that my sister needed braces, and I would need to pick up more shifts to pay for it. I felt tears sting my eyes, and that's when Riley walked in. I knew what I had to do. I didn't want to, but I told Riley I wanted him back. He leapt over the counter and kissed me, but I felt so guilty. After work, he took me to a fancy restaurant. Riley talked on and on about the vacations he was planning, the cars he was going to buy, the clothes he was going to buy me, but it didn't excite me. I didn't understand how he could feel good using money that wasn't even his. But I have to admit, the next few weeks I was cared for like I never had been. Every day, Riley gave me watches, video games, fancy clothes. The minute he gave them to me, I sold them to make money to pay off our debt and pay for my sister's braces. Sometimes Riley acted like his old, charming self, and I started to think maybe I could do this after all. In fact, I started to enjoy it. I was treated like a rich girl. I looked good all the time. I went to nice places. I even got to quit my job. But it started to weigh on me. One day, my little sister told me how she wanted to find a rich boyfriend like I had. It made me sick to my stomach. I was not proud of what I was doing. I realized I was setting a bad example for her. Right then and there, I knew I had to dump Riley and get my old job back. But when I went to my store to speak to my old boss, Riley ambushed me. He told me he had a surprise for me. Before I knew it, I was standing in the airport with a ticket to Paris in my hand. Paris had been my dream for years. Could I really pass that up? I took a deep breath and got on the plane. I was so excited. It was like I had totally forgotten I was about to break up with Riley. I could picture myself at the Eiffel Tower. But then, in first class, the flight attendant offered us drinks. I kindly asked for mine, but when the flight attendant told Riley she didn't have the soda he wanted, Riley lost it. He told her he was going to call her manager and get her fired. When I explained to Riley that this job was how she survived, he scoffed and said, "It's not my fault she's poor." In that moment, I felt a wave of shame crash over me. I stood up out of my seat. I told Riley I couldn't date someone like him, and I walked down the aisle to get off the plane. He screamed behind me, telling me I'd be poor for the rest of my life. And on the way out, I smiled. I may struggle financially, but I'm a good person. No amount of money will make you happy with someone you're not compatible with. And it shouldn't be a driving force in a relationship.